Om Sattvam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Amsmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Mochi Veda Vibhagine Yomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satguru Pranatosh Maham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste and welcome everyone. So does any one of you would like to bring up some questions or some contributions or some insights? Before we get into...
I have a little question,
nice.
Arlindo.
Because without our official questioner, David, we feel a little bit like at long time. So yes, Claudio, please.
No, I will ask you, how did you know that a student that you have, you as a teacher, how did you know that a student is knows everything about Vedanta, or has I cannot say that he's gained moksha, but has a clear understanding of Vedanta? For example, you start with Ramji, and then you start to do your videos, something like that. How is the relationship between the teacher and the student? And when the student is, when can you say that a student is have a clear understanding, something like that?
So this is a good question. Huh? It's a good conversation, let's say, because one can never really know how hard and fast and clear self-knowledge is to the person, and how extensive it fructifies to the degree that it transforms one's emotional personality. Okay, so if you live with your friends or student, on close proximity, you can see by the way one behaves. You understand? But if you cannot observe one's behavior, although observation of behavior sometimes is a bit misleading as well, because a lot of people may behave very well, but yet they are not clear about the non-dual nature of the self. Okay, but generally speaking, for the people who go through this process of Vedanta, so we know that the knowledge is clear for the person by what the person says, by the question that one presents, by the insights, by the reports one presents. And then you start seeing that the knowledge is clear, it's clear, it's clearer. It's amazing. I see some of my friends here in Brazil that have been studying with me for 5, 6, 7 years. And sometimes I see what they say and what they write as answer to question. And I'm impressed to see how beautifully and clear and well elaborate one answer can be. As opposed to, like in the beginning, you can see when the same person I'm referring to here, years back would answer something, and I would here and there offer some corrections, this is, it's not really like this. But some of these people, after some time, there is nothing I can tell, because I couldn't say any better than what they say, So you see that how this knowledge is going to operate in one's mind, and once one develops this clear understanding, this clear vision, you understand, and also in regards to the the means of knowledge. Vedanta is just a means. Huh? The end is self-knowledge, but for the one who wants to, let's say, share this means of knowledge, it's important to have a clear understanding of this teaching methodology, and we need to see how properly one got it, understood it. But this is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that this knowledge must be effective in transforming one's attitude towards life, the way one relates to life, you understand? So one's personality must be benefited, because after all, consciousness does not need any self-knowledge. Consciousness is not an entity, it's the entity, the jiva, who needs self-knowledge. And it's only the jiva who is going to be benefited by this self-knowledge, and this benefit must affect the way, the behavior, the attitude, One needs to gradually become wiser, more balanced, happier, more graceful, and so on. These aspects of one personality that is the proof, Like Ramji likes to present an expression like the proof of the pudding. How you say that, Lynn?
The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yeah. So you need to eat it, So you need to be a demonstration or an example, or you have to be a happy person, a good attitude, positive, and so on. So that is the proof,
So does this emphasize David's question that Nididhyasana never ends, really, does it?
Yeah. I like to bring Nididhyasana in this perspective. So I was approaching yesterday the question of David, and David is here with us already. So what is Nididhyasana? Nididhyasana is the ultimate aspect of our sadhana as Vedantins. Our sadhana here is about study, reflection, contemplation, until we fully assimilate the meaning of those Mahavakyas, of those verses presented by the Upanishads, that exalts our true nature as wholeness, fullness, and completion, consciousness, So Nididhyasana, literally, as I was saying, is assimilation. And assimilation is a byproduct of this spiritual effort of studying and contemplation and reflection and resolution of doubts and questions, and then putting aside all those suspiciousness that we have in respect to what the scripture says, So we need to go through that process, which is removing the obstacles that are preventing us to enjoy our nature as consciousness, to appreciate and enjoy our nature as free, limitless consciousness. So we have to go through this entire process, and this is Nididhyasana. And as I was mentioning the other day, there isn't really a very fine line between Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, because sometimes, as we listen, we assimilate, the clicks, and then go on happening, and then you see, whoa, makes sense. Yes, now I understood. So we listen, and then when we are meditating, reflecting, contemplating, or we are going through our notes, all of that is conducive to Nididhyasana, which literally and traditionally means assimilation, which is the end result. The end result of reflecting and contemplating, studying and listening is assimilating. Right? So this is the definition of Nididhyasana from the most traditional standpoint. But then, as I was mentioning the other day, yesterday, Nididhyasana is always sometimes present. Actually, it was introduced, this notion, from what I heard from Swami Paramarthananda. It was introduced by Shankaracharya 750 years ago. He said Nididhyasana is also application of self-knowledge. So it's application of what the scriptures presents us, as facts. So I want to have it living, operating my life as a fact. And here and there, when I see there is some ignorance surfacing, which is possible only when my mind is being under the spell of a video, of this confusion between my true nature and my jiva nature, which all the time try to control the experience and the field and so. So every time that ignorance comes, what do? It came because for a moment, the knowledge was not really present. It's like Shimaya said once, the price of self-knowledge is eternal vigilance. Vigilance means to have this body of knowledge that liberates this human problem, of psychological affliction, of trying to, to control things. So this knowledge has to be really present at all times, or most of the times. And then Shankaracharya comes in and says, okay, application of knowledge is Nididhyasana. So it means that you heard everything you could hear, you have reflected and contemplated, and then you fully accept the statements of the Upanishads. So you accept, okay, I'm no longer resisting, I'm no longer fighting, I take it, I embrace it, I accept, I am free, limitless consciousness, and nothing can touch me. But then as we live our lives, interacting with the field, and then here and there we see some ignorance surfacing, and then you see your jiva nature overrides your satya nature, you understand? And then you react in opposition to your ultimate knowledge. And then what do? We apply the knowledge in respect to my nature as such that which is always ever free. So this is application of knowledge. It's a way, to present again and again the remedy for this illness called avidya, right? So this is another way to look into this, as Lin was saying, it's a practice. It is a sadhana. It's almost effortless. It's a background kind of a very natural effort of stay vigilant and see when your mind is being affected by some sort of residual ignorance, And then we remember the teachings, and then immediately the yearning neutralize that overreaction and recompose itself or herself, So this is again and again, reapply. So more recently, we heard Dayananda also presenting or giving another twist to this Nididhyasana, which is the meditation of Vedanta, Nididhyasana. And he said the Nididhyasana sometimes can be seen as requalifying. So what does he mean by that? He means so you have heard everything. You have studied, and you went through the books and you read everything, and then you listen again, you went to the seminars, and then you reflect and you contemplate, and then you work out your questions, your doubts, your suspiciousness, the contradiction, the apparent contradiction that comes, in your mind. So you do all that kind of work. And then you're clear. Okay, now I got it. There is no real contradiction. Everything is clear. I accept it. But yet, I'm not able to enjoy the fruits of this knowledge, So that's where Dayananda comes in and says, so after I have done all of this, if you not yet enjoy the fruits of this knowledge, it means that you need to go back and requalify, meaning to say you need to further develop those qualifications that are going to allow you not only to accept, but also retain this knowledge as a doubtless knowledge. Okay? Because a lot of the people they may go through the whole process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, but yet due to excess of rajas and tamas that grows to develop samskaras, which are conducive to mental perturbation, habits, samskaras, patterns of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and so on. So if we have a mind that is affected by those sort of samskaras, it means that the mind is under the influence of too much rajas and tamas that have grown to develop these vasanas, these constellations of vasanas that remains there disturbing that beautiful intellect and prevent the intellect to hold the self-knowledge permanently, you understand? So, and then what do we do? How are we going to move with my Nididhyasana here? And then the Ananda comes in and they say, okay, Nididhyasana also is requalifying because I have gone through everything, but now I have to go back because I'm not enjoying the fruits of the self-knowledge. I have to go back and work on my basic qualification, developing dispassion, a little bit discrimination, disciplines of all sorts, and detachment or dispassion towards the world. And so there are many different ways to look on this subject, which is a very subtle one, Nididhyasana, because it is the practice of Vedanta. But what kind of practice is this one? People do not understand when they ask, like, okay, I love Vedanta, but I need to do something. I want to practice Vedanta. So you cannot really practice Vedanta because Vedanta is not theory and practice. It's just start, reflection, contemplation, until you fully assimilate this self-knowledge and until this self-knowledge is properly retained so that it fructifies by making you a happy individual, a satisfied person, right? So we need to go and, okay, I did everything. Now, I need to work a little more on some of those vasanas, on some of those tendencies that are disturbing the full appreciation of this self-knowledge. So it's like this mental preparedness or this mental purification or refinement, okay, development of sattva guna. If we don't do enough of that before self-knowledge, there is nothing we can do. We're going to do it afterwards. You understand? We do it before and then less we need to do afterwards. If we don't do much and we jump into Vedanta and we get it, but still we do not appreciate, and then we have to go back and do the work that was a prerequisite for enjoying the fruits of the self-knowledge. You understand, David? There is no escape.
I'm actually struck by thinking about this, and I mean the silver lining. The good thing is, if there was a place, if there was a spot that we get to where we're resting and in self-knowledge, and mithya in effect doesn't impact the jiva any longer. If there was such a place, then that would become a destination. It would become about reaching that goal, versus this approach or this explanation is really talking about it as a never. It's really just never ending. It's a journey. It's something that we are continuing, that we are already in, and we are continuing to reveal it and return to it, and as opposed to someplace that we're trying to reach. If that's so that's why I think this is a good reminder that we are already there. I am that, and this is a reminder of that. And if it was anything else, we would become I don't know, I am that. I'm trying to reach that, and that's not what we're talking about here. So it's
Well,
kind of
yeah.
interesting. So
Yeah, to begin with, we don't. When we come to Vedanta, we know that there is nothing really to be gained or attained. Okay, because we are what we want to gain, accomplish, or attain. We are free, limitless consciousness, so we are never going to get that. But there is something to be clearly and firmly understood and retained, doubtless. You understand? And this is a process that brings about the full recognition I am consciousness and I have no doubt. This is one side of moksha. You understand? Is this full, clear, recognition of my nature as consciousness, that which illumines the mind, that which vivifies the mind. Okay? I am that, and now I have no doubt. I no longer confuse myself with my mind, my emotions, my notions, with the koshas and anything. Okay, this is self-knowledge, Dave. Okay? Now that I have no doubt about my true nature, the world does not go anywhere. Children, your wife, your mortgage, your house, your garden, everything remains. The neighbors, the problems of the world, everything is there. So now, what is in this life for one with the self-knowledge? Well, I mean, of course, the yearning is beginning, gradually he loses interest in the world of objects of experience, because he knows that he is the very source of peace and contentment and joy. Okay, his nature as consciousness. But yet he has to do what he has got to do. So the way he's going to do it is going to determine how firm and clear and properly digested and internalized this self-knowledge is. Okay? So now, this internalization of self-knowledge, which is another way to present Nididhyasana, okay, is going to determine how the individual is really free from the ups and downs of mithya. Samsara is something that is changing all the time, and the adversities are enormous. They are keeping hitting us again and again. Beginning from the fact that we get older, and with old age, we begin to experience illness, and we begin to approach what is called the end of this body constitution, okay? So we have all these adversities, and how well we deal with all these adversities tells much about how free the individual is from the identification with the body and its experience. You understand? So what is moksha? Moksha is the fructification of self-knowledge to the degree that it immunizes the individual against these adversities, these difficulties, that we all experience. Life as a human being is an experience of pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. Favorable and unfavorable karmas, prarabdha karmas, circumstance. So how well we deal with all these downside, all these adversities, these papa karmas, is what determines how free one is, because everybody has no problem in general to deal well with punya. When punya comes, everybody knows how to deal with punya. Yeah? But when papa comes, and then we have to see, we have to see how free we are. So what is Nididhyasana, David? Which is a process that almost has no end, like Lynn has said. Because, the goal here is to become so wise, so clear about this knowledge, to the extent that you live almost like a saint. But a saint with a self-knowledge is a very rare phenomenon. You understand? And every time I talk about that, it comes to my mind the image of Ramana Maharaj, somebody that was so beautiful, you understand? Lived a life that was an example of this self-knowledge. Just imagine living like that, with no fear, with no desire, seeing everyone as an expression of Vishwara, you know, understanding Mithya, understanding Satya, knowing how to deal with people on the level of Mithya and how to deal with those that understood that the only reality is Satya. So to have a person with such a wisdom and such a wisdom that has fructified as true wisdom, spiritual wisdom, to the degree that it sees, you know, this love of Ishvara in all things, in all beings, and so on, and lives from that platform of self-love as well, you know, and appreciation for everything. So this is the goal. I like to present this process as the process of spiritual elevation. And there is no end for spiritual elevation. So when we elevate ourselves to spiritual, the scripture says that there may come a moment, a time, that your vasanas do not have enough energy to bring about another cycle of incarnation. And that makes total sense to us, because we come back again and again because we want to complete certain things. We have a lot of desires and fears, unresolved issues, unfinished situations that we want to solve with people, with, you know, and attachments to the loved ones. So we have all those things that the same way we go to sleep in the night and then in the morning when we wake up, they are all present, you know, dictating our day that we're just beginning. You know, the same way when we leave this body, this mind is not going to go anywhere. Why? Because this mind needs continuation. This mind needs another instrument to carry on its karma, its process, karmic process, you know, working its karma until it develops the wisdom, the purification necessary to come to Vedanta and get this self-knowledge. But when we get the self-knowledge, some of those rajas and tamas, of those vasanas, based on the notion that I am the body and reality is duality and I need to chase things to gain and to avoid, and so all those residual bits and pieces of ignorance may be still there in the mind, and unavoidably, inevitably, it's still there, some of these things, you know? And depend on how much of these energies are still present, the individual, even with self-knowledge, may come for another round in which he or she have the possibility to process further purification, further elevation, you know? So you never know when we are really done with the work, with this work. You understand? So it reminds me again, Papaji, when Papaji was about leaving the body, somebody asked him if he would like to come back. And then he said, oh, yes, I'm coming back, but it does not depend on me. If the Lord wants, I will come back. I have no problem to come back. He said something like that. You understand? So I remember also Abhedananda, when he was coming close to his last moment, you know, one of his disciples asked him, so Swamiji, would you like to come back for another round? And he said, oh, yes, of course. And then the disciple was a little bit, you know, found a little bit strange. I said, well, what is that, Swamiji? You are such a sage, such a Mahatma, a Bhakta, you know, of the highest kind of, you know, degree, and you have attachment to come back. Why you would like to come back? I said, oh, just to chant the name of the Lord. Understand? So we never know, but just this desire to chant the name of the Lord may be enough to bring a Mahatma back. You understand? Because I mean, we get what we want, in the sense, you know, if we want more experience, we get more experience. if we are done with the world of experience, and then we get no longer experience. To experience, we need an instrument of experience. I mean, I need another body, I need another cycle, you know? It's more or less on those lines that I see this process of Nididhyasana that I often present as our spiritual elevation, something that has no end. And David, now coming back to you, and why to have a final destination? Yeah. I mean, to live this process of a spiritual elevation, there is nothing more joyful and more beautiful, you know, to do in life. You know, we don't need to be concerned, oh, I need to come to the end game here and come and say, okay, my work is done. No, there is nothing more beautiful. Life is beautiful. We all appreciate it, especially when we develop good samskaras, you know. We appreciate life. And we know that the best game in town is to grow and develop and elevate ourselves spiritually, because we not only we're going to be a joy, you know, and we're going to enjoy ourselves, enjoy the world, and we're going to be another light, you know, positively impacting some other people, you know. So it's a beautiful process. What else to do? Ali, we want to live for more money, more comfort, more material gains, more fame, more prestige. We know that all of these are meaningless. We live for what? We live. Life is beautiful, and I want to just be be the love, a light of love, you know, a light of wisdom here.
I like what Mark said last week when he said spiritualize your life. I thought that was lovely.
Spiritual?
And it spiritualize your life.
Oh, yeah, spiritual. Very nice.
As basically another way of looking at Nididhyasana. And I was wondering, could you say that as long as there's Prarabdha, there's an opportunity for Nididhyasana?
Yes, of course.
So it just could become more and more subtle Nididhyasana,
Yeah.
as you become more and more clear and light,
Yeah.
and, you know, enjoying.
Yeah. That's what Shimaya and I think Papaji picked it up from I don't know where he picked it up, but Papaji also said that the price, you know, of self-knowledge is eternal vigilance. One time they asked him, he said, Papaji, you talk, because Papaji was a periods of time. There was a period of time that he was talking about vigilance every day. And then somebody asked him, but why you talk and how about vigilance? So are you also practicing vigilance? And then he turned to the person and said, of course, until the last breath. You understand? And when we look at the teachings, we understand that vigilance is important because avidya, this cosmic universal ignorance is really widespread, you know. We are surrounded by this fundamental ignorance. And if we are not vigilant, it may trick us here and there. Understand? The nature that reality is duality, and we need to you know, control our experience, control the field, and you know, and all the time in this process, you know. Did we cover your question, your initial question, Claudio?
Yes, of course. I think it's you have to be very close to really recognize if a person is mature enough. It needs really to be near, and as we say often, only a yani can recognize a yani, no?
Yeah. But I understand that you said you mentioned that in reference to your students, right?
No, you that in this case, you that you know Vedanta, not me with my students, because I do.
No,
I don't
okay.
do Vedanta for the moment. For the moment,
right.
I don't know. Maybe in 10 years, I
Mm.
think.
Mm.
But I mean, I say like you with Ramji, when Ramji did say to you that you are mature enough to teach, something like that.
Well, I mean, it does not really come like that. There is no something. So it's a very fine line, you know. It's just happened by chance, you know. I came to Brazil 6 years ago, and then there was a situation. I was trying to put up a seminar with him in Brazil, and then there was a situation. There was a conflict with another people that was helping me. And Ramji and Sundari, they really appreciate the way I handled that conflict. And then they were praising me like, wow, we were impressed the way you handle all of that. And then as a byproduct, he said, so why don't you begin writing some satsangs since you have already students there, blah, blah, blah. And then I think Sundari has suggested that and so on. And you know, things happen when you least expect. You don't ask for those things. Although I had many people over these years coming to me, especially in India, and asking me, "Oh, come on, let's come to lunch with me. I'm gonna pay lunch for you, and then or dinner in Tiruvannamalai." And then they come to me and say, "So I want to know, what did you do to become an endorsed teacher? You know, I want to do exactly what you did to become an endorsed teacher. So tell me what's the trick, you know?" And then I used to say the best thing is to forget about becoming a teacher, because if you really want to become a teacher, you are never going to be endorsed by Ramji, because Ramji was being, you know, how you say, I forgot the expression, but there were a lot of people, you know, going to Ramji, oh, I want to be a teacher, I want to be endorsed. Why don't you endorse me? And he used to say, I'm not going to endorse this guy, because the fact that he wants so much, you know, it means that he did not understand, you know, how things work here. There is no teacher, it's all Ishwara. If Ishwara puts someone in the position to share this knowledge or like you, Claude, you have a teaching vasana. That's good. We need to share this knowledge, you know. As far as the teacher watching the student, so in Vedanta, there is no such a thing as micromanagement. Ramji never kept an eye on me to see exactly how well I was doing. And I never kept a close look on any one of my students in Brazil, because I just here and there you see, and then you hear people say, praising, oh no, this guy's really good. I say, yes, okay, great. And then after 6 months, you see something that one says, and then say, yeah, the guy is here having really clear, and then you see that the person is living a life which is relatively free of conflicting karmas and so on. And then you infer that the person, you know, is doing well, but you can never be 100% sure. Ramji has endorsed many people and disendorsed many people for one reason or the other. I never try to understand any of that, because I don't like to go into those things, you know. But yeah, I don't micromanage. I don't do any tests to see how students are doing, because I trust in the knowledge, I trust in Vedanta, and I trust Ishwara. And when you get surprised to see how people's self-knowledge became so clear, you know, I say, wow, you know, because it is the student who has to do this work, you know. The teacher just helps a little bit, inspires and clear doubts, and unfolds the teachings to the best of one's ability, you know. Hello, Ronaldo. Good to see you.
Estou sempre aí, né?
Hum.
Sempre contemplando. Cada vez que você ouve, você se aprofunda mais.
É.
E é que nem você falou, né? A luta é diária. A aplicação do conhecimento, a ignorância é grande, você tem que aplicar a todo momento.
É.
Eu vivo isso 24 horas por dia.
É. O Ronaldo, ele entende o inglês. O Ronaldo, he understands English, but he is a bit shy, and so he prefers not to speak in English. And he was saying that he became one of these fanatics. His self-knowledge is very good. Sometimes I'm impressed, but yet he says that he's totally obsessed with it. He does this work all the time, you know, because he knows that he lives surrounded by a lot of ignorance, and he has to keep vigilant most of the time. So the same with all of us. I mean, the other way is to become a sannyas and make a wall of silence, and then we may live a relatively conflict-free life, you know. But we never know what's going on inside, you know. If the mind is really, truly pacified, you know, or if the mind is still, you know, a suffering mind, or it is a joyful mind, you know. So the mind has to become a source of joy on its own, without any need of anything for experience this joy, like Vivekachudamani says. Huh? You are consciousness, and your nature is joy. This is a good sadhana for us. Huh? We keep observing ourselves, and then we ask ourselves again and again, I am enjoying? Am I enjoying? Is my mind joyful? Am I enjoying this moment? You understand? And then if I'm not enjoying this moment, what is that which is preventing me from enjoying this beautiful opportunity, which is life? You know, what is there? What kind of thought, breath, emotion, feeling, you know, that is there? It's usually it's a thought. We need to look into the nature of this thought. If it's a thought based on ignorance, duality, I need this and that, only then I'm gonna be fully joyful, you know. So if it is a wise wise thought, you know, I am free, limitless consciousness, and my nature is joy, you know, is completion. There's nothing lacking to me. So every time we experience boredom or dissatisfaction and so on, we can apply the knowledge and ask, oh, the scriptures say that my nature is happiness, joy, and contentment. Why am I not experiencing? Why am I experiencing the opposite right now? Right? This is Nididhyasana, right, David? Application of this knowledge. You see, Vedanta is radical. It's not for everybody. You understand? Because when we come to Vedanta, we don't accept these things. Oh, yes, I have the knowledge, but you know, I'm so bored and I'm so miserable. I'm so this and that. No. If you have self-knowledge, and then you must enjoy the pudding, right?
Orlando, it reminds me of when you talk about the constant vigilance of dealing with my difficult sister who is a born-again Christian. And you talk and about being silent. I've kind of made myself learn to don't get into it with her because you can't be right with her. And then when I do say something, this anger comes up and I realize I've just been thinking this through. It's like, oh, I'm feeling angry because I'm not able to be right here. So it makes me think of looking into what is it about I can't feel like that I won and that I'm correct over what she's preaching to me, So I think that's a good example of going deeper into what's really behind
Yeah.
that, the constant vigilance of why do I have to feel like I'm right? I guess
Yeah.
because that makes me feel better about myself or something.
Yeah. Attachment to our notions. Righteousness is not really a virtue, the people who are too much attached to their beliefs and notions, and then they develop a righteous personality in the sense, I am right, and then they start debating and combating anybody who has a different notion, idea, and worldview, and so on, So this is a sign of attachment to one's notions. So this wisdom has to grow to the extent that we see everybody being operated by different vasanas, developing different minds. We are all programs, make no mistake about that. We are biological programs, computer programs, and we are programmed by society, by culture, by education, by information, you understand, by the news. And so we are a byproduct of this program. So, and every one of us is programmed differently, and there is war. Many wars are fought because of different conditionings, different notions, ideas, right? So, what is the program that we want to have? We want to have the Upanishadic program. You understand? And what kind of program is that? It's a program that erases all the wrong notions, which are really programs about you as an individual, constituted by the gunas and developing qualities, properties, attributes, talents, and dispositions and characteristics. So all of that is programmable, it's programmable, But Upanishad is going to come and say, oh, you are none of that. You can never be programmed because you are the light that shines in the intellect that's going to be then programmed. So we need this program called the teachings, the teachings of Vedanta, that is going to take us beyond that which can be programmed. But if we stay there on the programmed level, debating with people with different views, we'll experience conflict again and again, right? So it's
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you.
I was thinking about Karen's subject, and I am the only person in my family who isn't a Trump supporter. And when my family was here living with me, I got this realization that if I wanted to, that knowledge should be a gift, and that I wouldn't bring a chicken to a vegan and expect it to be accepted.
Right.
You have to give a gift that's appreciated. And sometimes I figured the only way to do that is to just present my view, not on the particulars, but on a more fundamental level, with generosity rather than persuasion. There's a little line there about offering rather than persuading. Yeah. And it's sometimes hard to find the line, but And there's always the option of just staying the hell away from it altogether, which is where I usually end up.
Yeah. It is. It's this politics have become a very, very divisive kind of thing nowadays. You know, I prefer never to go there, never to touch it, because you know, what is the difference of after all? You know, one party against the other. So anyhow, we need to look into our motivations when we present our views, our notions, our understanding. You see, it's the same thing about Vedanta. You don't go around trying to save people from this universal ignorance. You know, people who believe that they are the body and the duality is reality, and the only way to live a life is running in the rat race. You know, to gain things and avoid things, and you know, and doing horrible things for the sake of success. So when we see people that behave that way, we don't go with our Upanishadic Bible and we start preaching them. You know, we know it does not work. And the same way with any other thing, you know, I mean, Ramji likes to say, so the world does not need to be saved. People do not need to be saved. Leave it all to Ishwara, do your work. And if people ask you, wow, what is your political view here? You know, and then you deliver your political view. You understand? And then if they come to you trying to persuade you into their political view, you say, no, thank you. I already have my view. I have my view. One view is more than enough. Otherwise, I get confused, you know. So you don't try to impose, and then you make it clear to the other as well, you know. So this is something that can help us to get in trouble, you know. Help us to avoid getting in trouble, because trouble is all the time around the corner. All the time. I have a lot of different views from my son, and my son, he has one of these personalities that likes to affirm itself until the other says, yes, you are right, you are so wise, you know. And when he presents things to me, if I don't agree, I have to be very careful, because I cannot say, no, it's not like that. Otherwise, everything gets messed up. So you have to be careful sometimes with the people, yeah, and not to get in trouble. This is part of this wisdom of to know when is a moment to say something and when it's a moment to just stay quiet and listen a little bit and say, yes, but you know, I have to do something else. So we can talk another day about this right now. A little lie here, a little like that. It can help us to preserve our environment. You know, preservation of our environment is very important. Anything that brings about mental disturbance is no good for us. We want to have a mind clear and firm and focus on this, you know, this knowledge regarding my nature as full consciousness. And nobody likes conflict, do we? Is there anybody who enjoy a conflict mind, a stressed mind, a worried mind? So, and then we need to somehow look after our mental environment, you know, and in relationship to the people, you know, we deal with as well. Selecting as well our relations is important, you know. Selecting kind of association with people. So, and that goes for you, to you, Karen, because if you have your sister who has totally different religious views, and she is one who likes to present, you know, a little fanatic, present their views to you and say, you need to learn to say, hey, I have my views as well, you know, and I don't push my views on you, and please don't do that. We can talk about anything else, but not about your, it's usually it's those two things that are very touched, religious and politics. You have to be very careful, you know.
Yes, it's like everybody has to learn their own way, you know.
Including
That
ourselves,
you can,
because
including ourselves.
we may be wrong with our views as well. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, that is true.
But
I am one that likes
what is
so.
what is right and what is wrong? Usually, right is that which brings peace of mind, brings joy, you know, to your heart, your mind, you know, and that is right. That is good. Okay, but if things are bringing the opposite effect, and then we can say, no, that is wrong. That wrong is that which is not conducive to our purification and spiritual elevation and our peace of mind, clarity of the intellect, and so on. This is the preservation of our environment, and sometimes it includes to dissociate from certain people as well, you know. This sometimes includes dissociation from certain people, even some people that you have been associated for a long time, like your sister, you know. Yeah. Okay. So we'll meet again Monday. We carry on with the final verse of the Viveka Chudamani. It was a pleasure as always. I'm glad that we did it today again. Hey, David, it's not okay to eat lunch during satsang. This is a Vedanta satsang. Vedanta is very radical. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everybody. Big hug, kiss, much love, and I see you next time if you are willing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. I love the sound of ciao.
Ciao.